Coming up now on 714, as promised this morning, one of the other candidates for Lafayette Parish Sheriff, John Rogers, joining us in studio this morning. Sir, good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad to be back. How are y'all?
We're doing great this morning. Thanks for coming in to join us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll jump right in here and talk a little bit about, all right, so, what we like to know from candidates is, a little bit more about them. People can read what they can read on websites and different things, but, it's interesting when people tell their story about kind of who they are and what really motivates them. So, John, tell us a little bit about your experience in law enforcement and your background so that people can kind of get to know you.
Okay. I grew up in Lafayette. Of course, graduated from Lafayette High, graduated UL in criminal justice. Started in the sheriff's office under Don Bro. I've been there almost 16 years, working in corrections, and then from corrections, intake and booking, contract services, which is UHC, the airport, and the courthouse. From there, I went to patrol, and from patrol, I got an opportunity to go into CID, where I worked with Metro Narcotics. I did that for about 10 years, and in the process, of course, went back to school. I got my law degree from Southern University, working full-time and going to night school, which was that
was a feat, huh?
That was a feat in itself. Not as rigorous as running this campaign, I can tell you that. But from there, I was given an opportunity to get into administration and work under Sheriff Newstrom, and it was a blessing because it gave me the opportunity to be able to learn from an administrative aspect what exactly they deal with in comparison to what I like to say the boots on the ground deal with. Mm-hmm. And you get a lot of the boots on the ground feel maybe they're neglected or they're not looked at. And the administrators make decisions, but maybe sometimes don't necessarily explain why these decisions are made. Mm-hmm. So it's good. It came full circle for me. It gave me a really unique opportunity. And when the sheriff said he was going to retire, I looked at where I was at, and I looked at the candidates that were running, and I said, you know what? The next sheriff is liable to be in there for the next 12 to 16 years. What do I want to do with my life at this point? And I said, hey, it's time.
It's time to do it. Time to go for it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let me ask you this. So you have your degree, of course. You have your law degree, but before that, your criminal justice degree from UL. Did you always say to yourself when you were younger, I definitely want to be in law enforcement?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wanted to be in law enforcement as a kid.
Really?
You look up to law enforcement officers. Mm-hmm. And growing up, it's kind of funny. Off the air, we were talking about sports, and I played high school football, and I suffered a back injury my junior year at Lafayette High, and I had to go through physical therapy. And my physical therapist actually told me that the likelihood of me being a police officer in law enforcement was probably very low.
Wow.
And I'm one of those kind of persons where if you tell me that I can't do something, I'm going to strive to make sure that I can achieve it.
Nice. And,
rehabilitation went well, lots of back exercises, which I still have to do, today to keep the muscles, strong in your lower back. And here I am. And I passed the physicals, and I did what I had to do, went through the academy, and I've been very, very blessed to have the career that I've had, and I'm very grateful. So I don't look that gift horse in the mouth.
Absolutely not, huh? Now, how do you think law enforcement has really changed? We've got such an environment, it seems like, because I remember when I was a kid, too, everybody did look up. They looked up to policemen and looked up to firefighters. I think that still is the case today. However, I think nationally there have been some problems, obviously, but then there's this tone that's kind of been set. I think that kind of makes the job of law enforcement, it was always a thankless job, but now it's like it's almost even more thankless.
Yeah.
They seem like they're easily picked upon,
Well, we actually, that's another issue that we were talking about a little while ago. I was asked in a recent interview how it is that I went 16 years without getting in trouble. Mm-hmm. And by all means, I'm not perfect. Everybody makes mistakes.
Well, we're human, yeah.
But I think the problem that we have in this day and age is that the media focuses on the negative so much that, we don't get to see the officers or the deputies that did first aid CPR or rescue breathing for 10 minutes before Cadian got there, or the deputy that delivers a baby on the side of the road.
Yeah.
we don't hear about those things. And what I like to say, and I think most people would agree with me, is that we have hundreds of thousands of law enforcement officers and deputies all across the United States that go to work every morning, and they do their job diligently without a thank you, because that they have this passion and this desire to serve. And with that, they go 30 years in a career without getting in trouble. It's not unheard of. We have more of those than we have of the negatives.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's human nature. People like to see the mess. That they like to know what the bad stuff is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've bought into it. I say as a
I
society,
think we've
bought into it.
Absolutely.
And instead of looking at the highlights, which is really good, because lately on Facebook, I've been seeing people post positive stuff,
which is
about
a change.
People saying, "Hey, I saw a couple of officers in a restaurant. I bought them lunch and I prayed with them." That humanitarian approach is going to go a long way. That's one of the aspects I want to bring to the office.
Well, and I'd like to get you to relate what you were just talking about to the campaign. I'm not asking you to name specific candidates, but in the race that you're in, I know you're running a very positive campaign, but there's been a lot of negative campaigning going on amongst the other candidates in this Lafayette Parish Sheriff's race. I want to get you to relate that with the conversation that we're having about police officers and sheriff's deputies, and why you believe that this negative campaigning is doing a disservice to people, deputies and police officers.
Well, I think you have to go to the root of it. I think the root of it is Washington politics. That's what it is. It's trickled its way down the mighty Mississippi, right into the heartland of Acadiana, and big Washington politics, big money, what I like to call the machine, is at play. And unfortunately, it's rhetoric that takes away from the issues that people want to know. It takes away from the important aspects of what this office is really about. And it's a diversionary tactic. And you see it on the state level with the races that are coming up this Saturday. You see it in Washington. I mean, you can turn on any news channel. It doesn't matter whether it's CNN or Fox News, whether you're Republican, middle of the road, or liberal. It's everywhere. And when we started this campaign, we had many, many conversations, and we said, look, no matter what's said, no matter what's done, we're not going to buy into the big city politics. We're going to keep this straight and narrow. And I've been proud to say that we've run a clean campaign. We've run a straightforward, transparent campaign, grassroots. It's always been about the people. And, that's in stark contrast to what it means to be a politician today. The game of politics, from what I see, is for a candidate to convince the voting public that there's somebody that they're not. It's a disservice. It really is. We're going to stay on the high road for the next few days, and hopefully come out with a W, get us into the runoff, because I do think there's going to be a runoff, and just letting people in Lafayette know that we have options, we have choices, and do your due diligence and look at all the candidates and see who's doing what and who's saying what, and staying positive. I mean, you got to stay positive.
When we're speaking with John Rogers, candidate for Lafayette Parish Sheriff, how do you feel out on the campaign trail that people are responding to your positive message as opposed to a lot of the negative campaigning that's been going on?
Oh, it's been great. It's wonderful. I've actually had more people engage me in conversation about everyday things, not just issues in politics, just like, how's the weather? What about the Saints? Just everyday conversations, because I think people have heard the positive message. They know what kind of candidate I am. They know I'm going to take more of a humanitarian approach to things. And I want people to know who I am as a person versus who I am as a candidate. I want people to be able to walk up to me and have conversations. I've said it since the beginning. You're going to see me in your grocery stores. I have a 16-year-old daughter who drinks milk like a calf. So, you're going to see me at the grocery store at 9:30 at night buying a gallon of milk. You're going to see me in your coffee shops, in your restaurants, and I don't want people to think that as as a candidate or as an elected official that I'm unapproachable. I think that's an aspect that we need to transition into, where, hey, we're coming to y'all, KPEL, on a monthly or quarterly basis, talking to y'all about what's going on in the office, what's going on in the community. I had a conversation the other day, 74-year-old man mowing his yard, and of course he's outside, so it's easy to approach and talk to him. And his thing was he wanted me to encourage me, if I won, to encourage my deputies, if they're driving through the neighborhoods, to stop and to get out and just say, hey, I'm Deputy Rogers, I'm Deputy so-and-so. I patrol this zone often, and I just wanted to take the time to introduce myself and let you know that, I'm in your neighborhood periodically, and if you need anything, here's my card. Feel free, please call the sheriff's office. And he said that he hadn't had that level of service in 25 years.
Wow. That's a statement. Yeah.
That tells me that, and he prefaced it by saying, "No, I'm not asking for Andy Griffin or anything." He said,
especially not Barney Fife.
No, but it did lead us down an avenue of just regular conversation. Cool Saturday morning conversation, not about politics, and it gave him a really good insight into who I was as a person.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about perception, misconceptions, maybe. We're going to talk about personnel. We're going to talk about programs that are part of the Lafayette Sheriff's Office. We're going to do all of that coming up in just a bit. John Rogers joining us. He is one of the candidates for Lafayette Parish Sheriff. We do have, of course, to take a break. We've got your Hannity update on the way, and we've got local news coming up as well. And then we'll continue our conversation with John Rogers. It's 7:25 on KPEL. Right now, 64 degrees here at the KPEL studios. Well, right now, things are moving smoothly. No traffic crashes, no breakdowns to report to you. Very good news out there. But do be aware that for a couple of hours today, the Lewis Street Bridge in New Iberia, they're going to close it between 9 to 11 for some bridge repair. So keep that in mind if you're going to be in that area today. Coming up now on 7:39 as we continue our conversation with John Rogers, one of the candidates for Lafayette Parish Sheriff, as he joins Brandon and I in studio this morning. And thank you very much, of course, for spending all this time with us this morning and letting folks get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
I want to talk with you about the Manpower at the Lafayette Sheriff's Office, your thoughts on it. There's some programs to try to help people. Instead of helping them become better criminals by leaving them in the system, there are some programs there to try to help rehabilitate them, address maybe alcohol, drugs, education issues, etc. There's been a lot of discussion in our community for years about, what the numbers are. We're seeing recidivism rates go down, which is great. Less people are committing crimes after getting out of jail. That's awesome. There have been worries, though, about personnel. Do we have enough deputies out there, etc.? Where do you kind of look at this issue, and where do you dissect it for yourself? What's your philosophy?
Well, it started with looking at what we had and devising a plan where we could have what I like to say is the perfect blend of proactive law enforcement and public service.
Yeah.
The days of the sheriff being the chief law enforcement of the parish, sitting down at 316 West Main Street saying, I'm the top dog, if you will. I believe those days have passed. I think you're going to need a leader and an administrator who takes that approach. Proactive law enforcement with public service. And in order to tackle that, I think as we stand right now for ACA and DOC, we have what we need. But I think in talking to the employees, a lot of our employees feel overworked and somewhat overwhelmed. I'd like to see a way to be able to relieve those people.
Yeah.
And as far as the programs go, and I'm really glad that y'all brought them up, there's been a lot of talk at the individual candidates about the programs. The programs that are in place that are benefiting the community are good programs. Sheriff Newsom did a good job putting those programs into place. I think anybody who would go into that office and dismantle any of that, that would be political suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to take what we have and build on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have programs, some of them that may teeter in the red, but they provide a good service. I want to look at seeing if there's a way that we can consolidate them with programs that are running strong, and hopefully free up some manpower in other areas that we could address, move them to areas where maybe one or two deputies could be used to help out. And also look at the budgetary constraints of each program and see which ones are self-sufficient and which ones aren't. And, of course, that would go into the consideration of finding out how we can streamline things. My biggest thing is, and I've said it since the beginning, is the victims. We spend millions of dollars on offender programs.
We do.
And those are good programs, but we have no programs in place for the offenders. For the victims, I'm sorry. And coming from a criminal justice background, studying victimology, victim and victimization, it's important to realize that if we don't have things in place to help victims, then ultimately the statistics show that the likelihood of them becoming offenders is tenfold. So
that's amazing, John, because you're the first person to really talk about that and get in depth and focus in on that. These people, unfortunately, they do get victimized. It goes in or it goes out. And unfortunately, it goes out on society.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed in law enforcement is, and I am by no means picking on anybody when I say this, you have two types of people in this world. And I think one type of person is the personality that is going to take something that happened to them that may be traumatic in nature, that may have been a victim of a crime, and they're going to take that, they're going to pull it in, and they're going to use it to motivate themselves to be a stronger, better person.
Right.
I'm not going to let this bring me down. And then there's some people that become so overwhelmed.
Yeah. Things can be so devastating.
Exactly. And they need an outlet to be able to discuss and talk about these things. And they need an avenue to put them back on the right path. Because if not, we all know what happens. You get into substance abuse, you get into alcoholism.
Well, and then when these people go back into a jail situation, they just learn from the other people. They learn from the other people around them. Hey, here's how you do B&E a little bit better. Here's how you bump a lock.
No,
honestly,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And we take, part of the humanitarian approach is understanding that good people make mistakes every day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make them a career criminal.
Right.
People make mistakes. And the majority of people that are given the appropriate tools to deal with whatever's happened are going to turn their lives around. I think ultimately most people, the overwhelming majority of people, want to be good people in society. And so it's a humanitarian approach. It's mixing proactive law enforcement with public service and tearing down that wall, that notion that you're unapproachable or that you're not going to come out from behind a desk and be in the public eye.
So what would be the first program that you would start to address this issue?
Well, I've been following the Hearts of Hope, and I know that they had some funding issues as of recently.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to start with what's in place. So I think if we focused with Hearts of Hope, and we focused on the Faith House. I know that the sheriff's office right now is currently looking into some kind of arrangements with the diocese as far as homeless shelters go. So we have things that are already on the plate that we can focus on. Focus on what we got. Focus on what we have now, and get those running. And then we can look to branch out into other areas as far as addressing victims and victimization. But I know Hearts of Hope and Faith House, without a doubt, could use the efforts of the sheriff's office to help them.
And I know a lot of people discussing budgetary issues do not like non-for-profit or nonprofit groups getting money like from local government. But, if you look at the books of Faith House, for example, we could not do in local government and local law enforcement what Faith House does.
Correct.
There's no way law enforcement could pay for that. Us as taxpayers, we can't pay for it. Those people do an amazing amount of work with just a little bit of seed money, and they go out there and they get the rest of it from other agencies. Hearts of Hope, it's the same kind of tough thing. They got to go out there and they got to get the grant money. But I'm telling you, none of our groups locally could be able to do it without a little bit of that seed money.
No, and it's true. And one of the ways that in talking to the people that I'm working with as far as a possible transition team, one of the things that we've discussed is sponsorship. The Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office sponsors Hearts of Hope, sponsors Faith House, and not coming in and taking over their program. That's not going to be the answer. It's sponsorship. It's putting the strength and the power of the sheriff's office within our parish behind these programs to help highlight them, to help let people know that there are things in place and we're working with them diligently. And we can tie a lot of that stuff into things that we have at the sheriff's office now. We have Acadiana Recovery. We have, which is ARC, for substance abuse and alcoholism. And we also have the JAG Center for the Juvenile Assessment Center. So we have things that are in place in our office that I think we could bridge gaps, if you will, with other community organizations. Because, I mean, this is our parish, this is Lafayette Parish. We were just talking a little while ago, pastimes is, crawfish football game and a beer.
Yeah.
So it's we need to have that camaraderie throughout our entire parish. But I think the only way that we're going to do that is to have somebody in office who's willing to say, hey, you know what? My idea might not be the best idea. And, mature enough to take your pride and set your pride aside and say, hey, you know what? I may be the sheriff, but
here's what actually works from what
here's
we can
what
base
actually
the facts
works
on.
Yeah. And which leads me into the Criminal Justice Coordination Committee. Great program, or great committee, I should say, that the sheriff put together, but I'd like to expound upon it. I think if we're going to have a true Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee within Lafayette Parish, we need to have all the city councils, we need to have all the chiefs, we need to have the pillars of the community. We also need to have the pillars of the churches involved, because these are the people that hear the day-to-day conversations. They see it. And if they're worried about space, I mean, we have that beautiful building on Willow Street. We can open up a wall and put a big, huge, giant table and have a conference if we have to. I think that's how we're going to answer a lot of problems that we're facing in Lafayette Parish. And I just want Lafayette Parish to be the beacon in the South that everyone looks to and says, hey, Lafayette Parish has something going on down there. We send people all across the United States to see what other agencies are doing. I want to be that agency for Lafayette Parish. So.
John, let me ask you too, misconceptions out there. We have talked all week about how perception is reality. We stick to that a lot in the media. But perception can be way wrong.
Correct.
With anything that you look at. Is there one big misconception out there that you could say that maybe has been labeled or you've been labeled with? And would you want to clear up that misconception? What do you think people on the street talking have gotten wrong, maybe?
Well, I don't know if they've gotten it wrong, but from the beginning, I was the long shot. I was the dark horse of the race. And not that I would ever compare myself to Sheriff Newstrom, but in his 1999 bid for sheriff, he was the dark horse. And a lot of people said that there was no way he was going to be sheriff. And I've taken those comments that people have given me, and I've taken that, I've made it a positive. And we focused on grassroots campaign and raising the money that we've raised. The newspaper and the media highlight, well, Rogers is in fourth place. He's only raised $50,000.
Right.
Well, you know what? If you look at that $50,000 is a combination of $250 and $150 checks. That's people's light bills. That's people's electric bill. That's their phone bill. That's gas in their car. So when somebody gives me one of those checks, that check means more to me than a $2,500 check that a machine, like I would like to say, is going to pump out. And I look at the amount of money that is raised for an office that pays a little over six figures, and And I question that. I mean, is it about the job? Is it about the office? Or, to me, is it about the power that can come with that office?
Mm-hmm.
So, from day one, we fought, he's the long shot. I like being the long shot. I like being the underdog. I like being the New Orleans Saints going into the dome playing the Falcons. That's I like that. So and so as far as dismissing it or clarifying or anything like that, I've accepted it. I've embraced it, and we've turned it into a positive. And people are responding. People like what we have to say.
It is 7:52. We have a quick break. When we return, we finish up and wrap up our interview with John Rogers, one of the candidates for Lafayette Parish Sheriff, and it'll be his time to leave final words, final thoughts to you guys listening out there this morning. And we are approaching 7:53 now. Coming up now on 7:57, we've got about a minute left. That always goes to the candidate, Lafayette Parish Sheriff's candidate, John Rogers, with just your final thoughts, sir, and summing up and your conversation and talk to the voters listening this morning.
Well, I appreciate y'all for letting me come in here and share my morning with y'all. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. Mm-hmm. I just moving forward, we got 3 days left. I want to encourage the people of Lafayette Parish to do their due diligence and look at each candidate. Find out what each candidate is about, where are they from, what do they bring to the table. One of the things that we're looking at addressing, and we've addressed it on Facebook and some of our videos, is promises. Who's making promises? Who are the promises going to? And ultimately, who are the promises going to benefit? Are they going to benefit you, the people of Lafayette Parish, or are they going to benefit a select few individuals? So, do your due diligence, do the research, take these next 3 days to really look at each one of us and make a sound decision come Saturday. And ultimately, when you get in there and you close that curtain, do what's right for Lafayette Parish, not what's popular, because we've all learned that doing what's popular does not always end well, but ultimately when we do what's right always becomes popular. So I think it's important to stress that to your callers and your listeners.
John Rogers has been our guest. He has joined us, one of the 4 candidates for Lafayette Parish Sheriff. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And as he said, of course, the election is on Saturday. We'll have election night coverage starting at around 8 p.m. After the news at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. And, of course, Dr. John and I will be here in studio for you. Brandon Como will be out in the field along with Ken Romero and some of our other folks here at KPEL that you don't always get a chance to hear from. But those folks are behind the scenes, so they'll be out there this Saturday evening as well. Please watch out for a couple of traffic hotspots. We have a traffic crash on Camellia Boulevard between Silverstone and Stone Mount. That's Camellia between Silverstone and Stone Mount. We've got one Willow between Reading and Astor. That's Willow between Reading and Astor. We also have a stalled vehicle, Mills Street, right at Gloria Switch. That's Mills Street, right at Gloria Switch. I think that one has now been pushed off to the side of the roadway, so probably clear there. The Lewis Street Bridge in New Iberia. Lewis Street Bridge in New Iberia going to be closed between 9 and 11 today. DOTD is going to do some bridge repairs there, so keep that in mind as you're making your schedule for today as well. As always, if you see something happening, 232-1542. Traffic crash also now Vero School Road at Country View Drive.